Darwinism. Darwinism does an unprecedented theoretical explanation of phenomena that occurred prior to that theoretical conceptualization, prior to that theoretical formalization. All of the facts of the matter were there, but there wasn't a theoretical mechanism in place to attribute meaning to these facts. They were just facts, and people never saw the underlying logical connection that bound, theoretically, this phenomenon with this phenomenon. Darwin got it. He saw it. He constructs his theory, and it's ridiculous. So much so that the actual use of the term theory now to Darwin is improper, because it has stood the test of time and it has been demonstrated innumerably many times within the world. He was, we would say properly now, his theory emerged into fact. His theory became fact. He was the type of mind, he had the type of mind that it wasn't the case that he constructed this theory. It was the case that he recognized and articulated a fact in the world. Now that's top shelf. That's top shelf. I'm nowhere near there yet. And he's also a biologist, right? This is social science. In the social sciences, it's important to recognize that the application of, as a social scientist now, not as a biologist, the application of Darwin's theory of natural selection is specifically, and was specifically intended for biological selectivity as a means of evolutionary survival, evolutionary diversity, what have you, blah, blah, blah. It's biological. The appropriation of Darwin's, and I always hate this, and I hate when second-rate thinkers sort of copy and paste all of your work to their little feeble, their feeble work, and they mess it all up. Because social Darwinism sounds like it's the same. I mean, it's social Darwinism, right? What do? Well, look what Darwin did. That was great. Let's just do what Darwin did. Let's not think. Let's not be creative. Let's just do what Darwin did. So we're going to take Darwin's ideas of natural selection, and then we're going to say, well, societies emerge in terms of those collective groupings that best survive. Oh, that's right. I forgot about privilege. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about power and systemic abuse. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, we're going to do that anyway, and the weak just are weak and the strong are strong, and that's just the way it is. That's basically what it boils down to. I mean, to use the word theory to describe social Darwinism is an insult to me as a theorist. It's not even close. It's a cut and paste at best. It's third rate. It's third tier academic scholarship at best. Because all you did really was took somebody else's work and you copied and pasted it. And that's what you get. You got a copy and paste theoretical paradigm. Think about the application, the external application of what happened with social Darwinism, this idea of social Darwinism. Think about how that applied in the world. Well, we know how that applied in the world. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people lost their lives because certain individuals believed that they were they were the incarnation of selection. They were afforded the power to be able to make those determinations. And surely there are people in the world that have that much power. Any sovereign leader has the power, and those who influence sovereignty have the power to launch the new codes at any time, right? But the idea is certain individuals, obviously I'm talking about Adolf Hitler here, he took it upon himself to operationalize this crap second-rate theory. It's not even second-rate, it's third-rate, fourth-rate. It's crap theory. So the external application of the theory. This is important. There is really no means of externally applying the theory, like we all know, if people, prior to the externalization of the theory, prior to the operationalization of the theory, prior to the systematization of the theory, attack the internal consistency of the theory, the theory crumbles before it gets out the gate. Like it's deconstructed and decomposed, more decomposed, not deconstructed. It's deconstructed. Decomposed, Jason. It's decomposed prior to systematization. I mean, this is the stuff that I love doing. Okay, that's an emerging theory. That could potentially hurt a lot of people. That's an emerging theory. That could potentially hurt interests that I'm affiliated with. That developing theory could potentially undermine the interests of things that I hold as being sacred. Let me figure out what that theory is about. Because I recognize that theory in the next 5-10 years, if left unchecked, could and probably will be operationalized to actually do damage. So prior to that, I'm going to destroy the internal consistency of that theory. That's why it's weak. You can't do that. You can't do that. You said this, but you also said this, and those two things don't hold. It's crap. And then people are eventually, when it comes time for this to be operationalized, will say, well, hey, wait a second. I read this paper, or I heard this guy, or I saw this video, or I watched this YouTube channel, and he said that that's crap, and I believe him. That is crap. You can't do that. It's a lot harder to pull it off. Now, unfortunately, and I'm going to be honest here, this is part of the game. If you're very, very good at doing this, then yes, you can defend things that are probably bad. We all gotta pick sides. We gotta pick sides. That's how this works. So their best minds, whoever they are, and our best minds, whoever we are going to attack each other's theoretical paradigms. Why? Not because this is just some ideological war for the sake of ideological war. It's because ideologies manifest themselves as actions in the world. And if my ideology destroys your ideology prior to yours getting out of the gate, guess what? You're not going to be able to act in the world. Right? So we need people who can think on that really abstract level. That's what this is. That's what this is. Anyway, I digress. I wasn't really a digression at all. It was right on the point, but it's yeah, it's candy. Number 2, any intelligence theory should, quote, identify what is required to facilitate democracy. Any intelligence theory should identify what it facilitates, what is needed to facilitate democracy, right? The idea is, what I will extract from that is the idea of facilitation. That intelligence theory is a facilitation. I do believe, honestly, myself, I do believe, and I do agree with the author, but now I'm presenting this publicly. So I have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that the word democracy in the U.S. is totally cool. Nobody in the U.S. is going to be anti-democracy. The concept in the U.S. just doesn't even fly. And even the most radical sects, there's a super, super small population of people that might get unnerved when you say democracy in the U.S., but it's a super, super majority. I know, however, in giving this lecture publicly to a global society, I have to be careful in the use of the term democracy, because democracy is almost inherently attached to Americanization of the globe. I know that. I've done enough reading and enough literature to understand that, so I'm not going to be callous and tactless in my presentation. So despite the fact that I personally do believe and support bullet point number 2, what I will say, rather than democracy, right, is that intelligence, any intelligence theory, should identify what is required to facilitate the mission or the objective of the national interest. Remember, national interests for a sovereign nation is going to manifest, ideologically speaking, in quote-unquote the mission. What is it that's guiding our actions in the world? I mean, actions in the world are being guided by capital, so all of us, for the most part, all sovereign nations, almost all, 90% of sovereign nations are being guided by capital. So there's no ambiguity there. That's a fact. But aside from capital, what really is the underlying motive? And it depends. So to say that it's democracy, and this intelligence book and this intelligence piece was written about American intelligence, so it's not that the author is being inconsistent here. The context with which he's writing is about American intelligence. I'm taking his information and I'm augmenting it a bit to apply it to a more global lecture. This isn't a lecture that I'm giving for Americans. I'm giving this a lecture for everybody, though I am an American and I am biased. So I do believe in democracy. But the idea is, in order to facilitate the intelligence community, in order to facilitate